Hey, so you guys know how I'm always sitting down in these videos and I'm always kind of antsy and jumping around? Well, get a load of this. Alright, see? New standing desk add-on. Now I can actually stand up and move around while I'm talking to you guys. Has that always been there? Okay. Well, anyway, let's talk about Geek Love.
It's very hard to find someone that actually understands South Park humor, especially.
Geek Love was a web series uploaded to IGN's YouTube channel that chronicles a speed dating event at New York Comic Con in 2012. It's exactly what you're imagining, but you might have a few questions. Luckily, they will be mostly answered by the first episode, entitled The Brony Friend Zone. Yeah, we're going there. So, Geek Love really begins with a man named Ryan Glitch. Ryan is a self-described geek and ultra nerd who attended a speed dating event at DragonCon, and if you think that went well, it's called fucking DragonCon. What did you expect? Despite this experience, he saw potential in the idea and started Sci-Fi Speed Dating, an event just for big old nerds that tours various conventions around the United States. Now, to his credit, they have resulted in multiple long-term relationships and even a few weddings. The core foundation makes a lot of sense. Having common interests can be a good way to grease the wheels of a first conversation with somebody, and that's pretty important when you only have a few minutes to make an impression. Like speed dating. Conventions are a pretty surefire way to find people with common interests, and what bigger convention is there than New York Comic Con? So, most episodes include a little bit of mini interview footage of people from around the con explaining what's so great about dating geeks.
Geeks are sexy because they're just sexy.
This is 18 and over, so I can say it because they can put a lot of imagination into the bedroom.
The subject of the first episode is Alex, a self-described giant geek.
Hi, I'm Alex, I am 25, and I am a giant geek. My love life status is a mix of forever alone and socially awkward penguin.
Lines like that could be used by scientists to carbon date this series.
It's meme-tastic.
Alex loves comics, Doctor Who, redheads, board games, and the big one, My Little Pony. In 2012, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic had only been airing for 2 years, and the idea of bronies was still kind of new. At the time, this was a really big deal, and Alex spends a moment to talk about his interest, the pony toys he owns, and which are his favorites. One thing I'll credit the show with is that it's pretty respectful of its subjects. It was produced by Authentic Entertainment, who you might know for Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, aka the real reason America's foreign relations tanked during Obama.
The grossest thing I've ever seen in my life was my daddy shave my mama's because she can't shave herself.
Not what I'd expect out of those guys. It would be really easy to make fun of Alex for liking the pony show, but the editors frame it as less of a character flaw and more a reality of his life that's hard for other people to understand. And hey, if the show's not making fun of him, I might as well. Just the middle? What do they call that, the Hudson River? In order to really drive home how much other people don't respect his hobby, we're given a scene of him going to board game night. Here, we're introduced to Carolyn, whom the show's editors make sure to point out is just friends. In quotes like that. I can't help but wonder if that was at her insistence or just a cruel joke by the showrunners. Actually, I'm leaning towards the former because when she asks him what kind of girl he wants to meet at the convention, he replies,
No, seriously though, like what type of girl would you optimally like to meet there?
Yeah, I guess you, but not crazy and hyper.
"Oh man."
So you essentially want my non-evil twin.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
A little creepy, Alex.
When he talks about girls he likes who just want to be friends, they cut to a shot of Carolyn.
The girls that I really do like, that I'm really interested in, just want to be friends.
Interestingly, Carolyn does not know that Alex is a brony because she reacts like this.
Oh my god, are you a brony?
Oh, yes, I am.
Oh my god! You know that's up there with MMOers, right?
For some reason, she likens being a brony to being an MMOer. I don't understand how those things are at all related. From his introduction, Alex comes across as a decent guy who just lacks experience talking to people and faces some ridicule for his interests. Hey, maybe sci-fi speed dating is a perfect fit. So now we get our first taste of the actual speed dating, or more specifically, Ryan Glitch's MC skills. There's a cutaway where he talks about how much the friend zone sucks to be in.
The friend zone sucks.
And how difficult it is to get out. Now, I would be willing to believe that this is some editing trickery and that he wasn't talking about this in relation to the speed dating event. They just threw that in. But it's led into by a clip of him telling the women not to use this as an opportunity to practice their friend zoning.
Ladies, do not use this as an exercise to perfect your friend zoning technique.
It's a really fucking weird note to start on because what are you talking about? This is a speed dating event? It sets up this unfortunate implication that the women here should feel pressured to accept any of the men's advances or else they're friend zoning. It's just really icky. This is not the only time Ryan kinda oozes like this. Going into speed dating, Alex is just looking for a date. It's neat because he starts off a little awkward and uncomfortable, but once the event gets going, he starts to loosen up and actually has some decent interactions with the women.
I work in the health education field. Okay.
Health ed teacher, putting condoms on bananas, things like that. It's always fun.
It always, shocks people when you pull the banana out, but hey.
Things start to really go his way when he meets a redhead.
I like that she had a, sexually funny Kirby shirt on, but I want you inside maybe. Video games?
Once the dates are all done, we get to the last part of the event.
Yes, there's 3 minutes. I know you're not used to going that long, but it's okay.
Come on. Throughout the dates, everyone's had a piece of paper where they've been taking note of who they liked. Now, the men and women go to separate ends of the room. The men write down their name and contact info on sheets that correspond to each of the women they like. Then they sit down. The women get those papers and see who they like back, and have 30 seconds to make a decision and sit down with the guy for an extra 3-minute conversation, during which they can make plans or whatever. This is called the perfect match, and it's the climactic moment of pretty much every episode. After some tension, the red-haired girl sits down with Alex in a major win for our boy. They arrange to spend the day together and walk off into the con, a happy ending, tagged with a follow-up segment filmed a few weeks later. Oh no. They're playing royalty-free Midwest emo.
Cameras were off, and we walked away, and what happened was that basically, she told me after about a minute, basically that she just wanted to be friends. So basically, kind of, nothing ever happened, of course. I understand, but it was kind of depressing.
I genuinely feel bad for Alex. It would have been one thing if he didn't get a match at all, but to get his hopes up, make plans, and then immediately turn around and say you aren't actually interested in going out is a little... Maybe she could have handled that better. I mean, I would have been annoyed. Overall, it's not a bad first episode, and the rest of the series follows suit in this style. I think in an attempt to keep the perspectives balanced, the showrunners decide to spotlight a woman for the second episode. Casey Ann is a pretty normal nerdy girl. She likes video games and making her own cosplay. One of the first things she mentions about her love life is that she wants to talk to people with similar interests, but a lot of guys are intimidated by her or try to be gatekeepers and challenge her nerd cred. She's going to Comic-Con as Juliet from Lollipop Chainsaw, and she's already bracing herself for the reaction during speed dating.
It's hard to say what the person sitting across from me at speed dating will see as my best quality, especially because I'm going to be in costume. Hopefully it's not, like, my cleavage or something awkward like that.
Hey, can you say I love geeks for us? Alright, on one? 3, 2, 1.
I love geeks.
Perfect. This episode is interesting because we get to see Ryan Glitch talk about a woman. He describes Casey Ann as having the reverse of the ugly duckling problem.
She's kind of a babe. I'm actually really excited to see the reaction we get from the guys here at speed dating over her.
Now, like, he's not wrong here. She's an attractive young lady in a pretty revealing outfit. I would expect straight men to be a little more interested in her. I just don't say it like that, dude. It's weird. Before the dating starts, he also drops this little line.
Gentlemen, if you're here just to get laid, please leave. Ladies, if you're here just to get laid, take your pick.
There's this weird double-headed sexism that oozes out of Ryan throughout this series, and it comes out in this way where he refers to women as these mythical objects of desire, while also making constant put-downs on the social skills and self-control of the men. There's all these little comments and jabs that make me feel like he doesn't have a lot of respect for anyone there. Casey Ann's dates are a little stiff. Literally, there's this guy fighting his demons trying not to look at her cleavage, and he's losing the battle. Now, given what she said earlier, you might imagine that she'd find this a little disappointing or annoying, but the editors decide to cut in this clip of Ryan.
Casey is dressed as Lollipop Chainsaw, but she's wearing very little, and hopefully she'll reveal a lot of herself.
This is probably taken out of context, but it doesn't look good. Then later there's this truly epic setup and payoff.
It's been fun. Nobody has asked me yet if I've actually played this video game, so that's a good sign.
Zombie Lollipop Chainsaw.
Yeah, you got it.
Did you play that?
Of course I did.
The most pained laugh ever. This guy can't even remember the name of the game, and he's asking her if she's really played it. It's too perfect. Eventually, she does meet with a guy she clicks with, and Ryan describes him like this.
Casey Ann speed dated a guy who was
very physically fit, you know, very pumped, iron-looking, good-looking guy, chiseled chin, very superhero, the Schwarzenegger style, you know. And,
what the fuck? While they have a good time together, the follow-up reveals that he found someone else, and because they live pretty far apart, it was just easier to end things amicably. Bit of a bummer, but she does point out that the whole experience improved her confidence, and made her realize that a date doesn't have to be a lifelong commitment. Brittany is our third subject, and her episode is kind of unremarkable in the sense that there's no big weird moment. She's a kindergarten teacher, she likes BioWare RPGs, Star Wars, and Harry Potter. Plus, she's a PC gamer.
Because if you're a gamer, you have to have your own beast of a gaming machine.
If anything, the biggest negative she has going for her is that she says up front that she's looking for a soulmate.
I've only had one serious long-term relationship, but we were high school sweethearts, and I'm really looking for my soulmate.
At Sci-Fi Speed Dating, New York Comic-Con.
Do you have any deal breakers?
They have to play video games.
Is that honestly your deal breaker?
It is.
Damn. She's just like me.
What is sexy about geeks?
Besides everything,
I like the girls that wear revealing clothing.
I take it back. Actually, he's just like me for real. Before the dating starts, Ryan decides to speak.
Gentlemen, do not start talking to the girls yet. You'll scare them.
This is like the condescension I was talking about. Like, a little respect for your patrons, please? Why set up the idea that the women have something to be afraid of? It's so weird. Just stop. The rest of the episode goes pretty normally. She talks a lot and needs someone to match her energy. Eventually she meets this dude in a Hatsune Miku t-shirt. They hit it off. He's her perfect match, and this happens.
When he first came in, he was one of the ones that I really was like attracted to.
Oh, my guy is feeling it. Their date goes pretty well. They both like the fountain.
I really liked the fountain. I don't know if you could consider that.
I love the fountain. It was so good. Like, it's so deep. Like.
And in the follow-up, they were still going out at the time of filming. Well, hey, it's our happiest ending yet. You know, I went into this thinking it was going to be a lot of embarrassing moments and cringe, but this has been pretty good. I've liked everyone in the show so far, and... Wait. I know what this is. This is a dramatic setup. The first thing that we learn about Jimmy is that he really loves Superman.
I'm Jimmy, and I am a huge Superman geek.
He loves him. He has a room packed with memorabilia. He has a tattoo. He carved and painted and printed and lacquered this chair dedicated to the character. He's constructed a figure. This guy loves Superman more than most fathers love their children. What's really important to note, however, is that Jimmy doesn't want to be Superman. That's not his fantasy. He wants to be Superman's friend. He wants to be Jimmy Olsen. Despite his extreme interest in this character, when Jimmy's friend, who kind of looks like that rat from Flushed Away, asks him what he's looking for, he has pretty reasonable standards.
I'd like to meet a girl who's funny and interesting and into comics and movies, and certainly someone who's a little bit witty, and maybe someone who's into my artwork. It'd be fun to meet someone who's maybe creatively inclined, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right, because Jimmy's also an artist. He has this very exaggerated caricature sketch style, and he's honestly pretty good.
You have to find your inner geek.
And I helped her bring her geek out.
What do you mean by that?
Every geek's a geek at heart, and you always find something to love about each other.
What is this woman's accent? Where is she from? Where is she from? What is the... I'm obsessed with where this accent is. What is this accent? As you might expect, Jimmy is cosplaying Jimmy Olsen, Superman's pal. He has a little press badge and everything. It's a neat low-budget costume. And, Ryan has this to say about it.
Jimmy looked like personified what I would expect Jimmy Olsen of 2012 to look like. You know, he's a modern Jimmy Olsen. Everybody else is getting modernized. The background characters aren't. Alfred is still a butler. Lois Lane is still a bitch.
I really dislike Ryan Glitch. He's just oozing everywhere in this series. Okay, remember how Jimmy laid out what he's looking for in a woman and it seemed pretty reasonable? Well, now that we're at the gates of sci-fi speed dating, he says this.
I hope that the girl's interested in Superman. That'll make or break everything.
This character becomes the cornerstone of Jimmy's entire run through speed dating. He interrogates every woman about Jimmy Olsen.
I like your glasses. Oh, well, thank you. Are you a Superman fan?
More of a Batman fan.
More of a Batman fan? Oh, jeez. Do you know who Jimmy Olsen is?
No.
You don't know who Jimmy Olsen is? Oh, jeez. You just strike out if you don't know who I am. You know, I feel just like lost in a void.
Knowing and loving Jimmy Olsen is his cardinal virtue, and when they don't know who he is, he gets visibly upset and worked up.
Well, do you know who I am? Do you know Jimmy Olsen? You don't know who Jimmy Olsen is? Come on. You know who Superman is, right?
Yeah, I know who Superman is.
More of a Batman fan. More of a Batman fan? Oh, jeez. Do you know who that is?
No.
You don't know who Jimmy Olsen is?
No, I'm sorry.
Take a wild guess. What the hell is going on? Really, it's a joke. This is all that's got to be a joke. He's somebody's pal. He is a big superhero's good friend. He wears a red cape. He's really strong.
Red Tornado?
What?
Red Tornado.
Who the hell is that? You know Lois Lane?
Oh, so the other guy, the one that no one ever talks about.
That's not funny at all.
Wait, he doesn't know who Red Tornado is? Yeah, I get he's not like a huge deal, but it's also not the most obscure DC character. Instead of just telling them that he's Jimmy Olsen and that he's a big fan of the character and Superman, Jimmy takes personal offense. Now, I know that reality TV, which I would categorize this with, is known for manipulating footage and telling people to act in a certain way to make things more entertaining. But so far, in the first 3 episodes, they didn't really do that. There might have been some conversations that felt staged, and the editing of the dating could have been worked to present it a certain way, but the conversations and the subjects themselves have not come across as manipulated. Alex, Casey Ann, and Brittany seemed pretty authentic on the dates themselves, and even if editing is making this seem worse than it is, there's so much footage of him acting this way that this has to have been what he was like. At last, he meets a woman who knows who Jimmy Olsen is.
Do you know Jimmy Olsen? You do?
The best photographer ever.
That's great.
Yeah.
And he can finally talk about something else. Namely Superman.
It's the greatest line when, Lois falls out of the helicopter, it flies up, and he goes, I got you. She goes, you got me. Who's got you? Greatest line in movie history. Greatest line.
He really lucked out too, because her favorite movie is the Christopher Reeve Superman.
She was quoting Superman. She was pretty cool.
One of the last women he meets is this tall lady whom he immediately had his eyes on when he walked in. She sees his bow tie and asks if he's a Whovian.
You're a Whovian?
A what?
Are you a Whovian?
I don't know what that is.
Jimmy, for once, doesn't know what the other person is talking about, and when he starts to get a taste of his own medicine...
You don't know what a Whovian is?
No. Do you know who Jimmy Olsen is?
He immediately steals control of the conversation back.
See, we're both lost.
Now, this woman doesn't know who Jimmy Olsen is, and you'd think that would be a big disappointment to him, a big negative. But there's this awful cutaway.
If they're super hot and they hate Superman, that's something I'm willing to live with, really. I'm really willing to live with that, because you can always train a dog new tricks. You can always get somebody to develop an interest.
Which implies that no woman was attractive enough for him to drop the insistence on Jimmy Olsen. Ouch.
Oh, I see. You're confusing me with Doctor Who.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm Jimmy. I'm Superman's pal. He wears a bow tie as well.
Right.
You know who Superman is, right?
When the time comes for the perfect match, Jimmy is faced with the fact that he only really liked 3 of the 30 women enough to write them down, and there's this truly epic still where they show his sheet. His descriptions for them are knows who Jimmy Olsen is, cool shoes, and lives on a farm. Like Superman! Somehow, according to Ryan, Jimmy has actually gotten a lot of interest from the women. But he is so hung up on the Superman virtue and picky that he's basically screwed himself out of a perfect match.
And Jimmy, he's going through, he's got a lot of girls that are interested in him.
I was a little bit picky. The numbers I wrote down were 2 and 12. One was really tall and cute, and the other one, I think, had red hair and was into Superman.
When the time comes for a perfect match, not a single soul sits down with him. Whoever was the cameraman, I hope they got a raise, because they get a shot of Jimmy in the foreground and both women he was interested in the background, sitting down with other people. It's perfect. It's so good. Nobel Prize.
I had a lot of names. I actually don't see either of the two girls that I wrote down on my sheet, so. I got a lot of names.
As Jimmy walks away, dateless and defeated, Ryan tries to spin it as he knows what he wants.
Jimmy's got a lot working for him, and he knows what he wants.
It's weird because he seems pretty normal for the show, and he has a lot going for him compared to some of the other men. He's pretty handsome, he's in shape, he's not awkward, he does art, probably shares a lot of common interests. He just fucking loves Jimmy Olsen. The follow-up reveals that nothing has changed in the time since Comic-Con. He's still looking for love and forlorn over his loneliness. He talks about someone who will electrify him and knock him off his feet, and I don't know if this was intentional, but the editor cuts to B-roll of his Superman statue, and it made so much sense to me in this moment. What the editing seems to imply is that the person he's really looking for is Superman. Nydia's episode is much more normal compared to Jimmy's. She likes to cosplay.
I'm a bumblebee. I'm a penguin. Yeah, man.
Her last relationship didn't end well, and she's starting to get antsy because all her friends are getting married and she hasn't even been dating recently. She's going as Cheetara from the Thundercats.
She's here dressed as Cheetara, and how?
Yeah, Ryan. Yeah.
I think that the fans you get at New York Comic Con are all out, cocked, locked, and ready to rock.
Sure. Nydia has this weird streak with guys during speed dating. There's this kid who looks like he's 17 and I'm convinced is like a fake gamer. She asks him what consoles he owns and he just says, all of them?
All of them?
And when she asks what his favorite game is, he replies, I love a lot of games.
Hey, what's one of your favorite games?
I can't tell you because I love all games. So PC, console, I love them all.
Apparently, this guy who just looks like a waiter is in cosplay as a Sith Lord from Star Wars. And when she says she's never seen Star Wars, he looks like he's been shot. Then she runs into a man who is never named, but I will call him Dave. And Dave's not playing around.
What are you, Catwoman or some shit?
Some kind of Catwoman or some shit. Fucking love that guy. Now, for all her shaky luck, she does meet some guys she seems to hit it off with. Particularly the ones with Thundercats tattoos. Who would have guessed? Then, Patrick Bateman shows up.
Hello, number 29. How are you? I did see the way you sat down. You grabbed your seat. You sat down like you work HR or something. You throw the legs across. You're like.
I'm sorry to this guy, whoever he is, but he looks like, you know, like, I'm not being mean, right? Like he.
It is an interview, isn't it? So it's like name, rank, serial number, give you a resume, and see if you can sweep her off her feet, right?
The perfect match goes about how you'd expect. She went for the American Psycho?
Tell you what, we can connect right around the corner off of this and drop a text message. Right? No, I actually just left my email address. It's easier to block through email, not through the phone company.
Oh.
What? Now, despite my personal reservations about this stranger from 10 years ago, they do seem to hit it off, and he gives this face. Curiously, this is the first episode without a follow-up, probably because Nydia wasn't around on account of her scattered body parts being recovered in several dumpsters across New York the following week. For some reason, the women on this show have had much higher expectations.
My name is Mary. I am 24 years old, and I want to meet a guy that's as cool as James Bond, sexy as Stallone, and as funny as Bill Murray.
I like to think she's joking here, but goddamn. Mary is really into Star Wars, 80s movies, comics, and cosplay, of course. This year, she's going to Comic-Con as Elektra, and there's this bizarre scene where her friend comes over to help her apply a fake tan. Mary is just standing in her bedroom waiting for her to walk into her house, I guess, and then they just stand there and rub the mud on her. Mary doesn't move a single step. It's so awkward. When Ryan calls them all into the room, he says this.
Up against the wall. Come on, up against the wall and spread them. Let's go.
Just like, dude.
Come on, gentlemen, get in here. There's women, I would hurry.
And again, with this patronizing attitude towards the men. Mary's speed dates aren't really that interesting. Until he appears.
What are you, a pirate or something?
I respect immensely the dedication of this man to show up to a speed dating event and basically play the part of a huge douchebag for seemingly no reason.
No, I'm Elektra.
From
Daredevil.
I didn't see it because it sucked.
Have you read the comics?
No, but the movie was awful, so I didn't read anything else.
The last guy seemed kind of douchey.
Mary is feeling a little discouraged by her interactions, and there's this wonderful "be careful what you wished for" moment where they play a clip of her saying it would be cool to meet a Daredevil fan at the convention. And then she meets a guy who knows a little too much about Daredevil.
Favorite comic was Frank Miller's Daredevil. My first comic was 180. The battle with Bullseye, the one where he's resurrected, and then the book. Because that's like that was the way the creator meant for the story to end. She actually shows up at one point. She's in a nun's costume.
Eventually, she meets a guy who's very intimidated by her, but she thinks he's cute and likes that he does charity work. They have a very frigid meetup later that night outside the convention hall. They have an awkward conversation where he admits he gets scared talking to women, and I can't imagine being filmed by some IGN employee in the bushes makes it much better. They have a cute moment where she shows him her real hair and he pops off, and the episode oddly ends with no follow-up. I can only assume that she was also found scattered in several dumpsters across New York. Anthony is one of the most interesting characters on this show because he embodies a really extreme form of one archetype of nerd. He knows exactly what he's into, and he leans into it more so than most, but remains a self-described awkward geek. Because you might know him as Anthony by day, but by night he's the Ansonator, the super EMT.
What the hell are you?
I'm a super EMT, and this is going to be awesome.
There's this shot that makes me laugh so hard. just this low energy spin into the most vacant stare while triumphant music plays is so great. He's really into South Park, Lord of the Rings, and Mickey Mouse.
Oh boy, we're gonna go to Comic-Con, speed dating, and we're gonna have such a good time and find a nice Minnie Mouse.
According to him, South Park has been the biggest issue for people in the past. He repeatedly describes it like it's this super niche thing that you get bullied for watching. South Park? There's this odd anecdote where he mentions trying to date some people from the fire department and things got really, really bad when they found out he was into South Park. I think this shot implies that they saw his South Park memorabilia, but I have a sneaking suspicion that they were actually turned off by the Coke mirror it's resting on. Oh yeah, he is part of the fire department because he is, in fact, a professional EMT. And has saved people's lives before. He's also a black belt in Taekwondo, which on the scale of gay martial arts is, bisexual. These two aspects make up the Ansonator alter ego. Anthony, like many of the men on this show, lives with his mom.
Girls think that it's actually adorable that I live with my mom.
She asks him what kind of girls he likes.
So for speed dating, what kind of girl are you looking for?
I am a sucker for the blondes, but the thing that I'm looking for at sci-fi speed dating is to find that damsel in distress that I will be her superhero and I will sweep her right off of her feet and then go on an awesome date.
Dude, if I see this, I don't think I'm getting saved. I think I'm getting scattered across several dumpsters in New York.
You're a geek. Don't be in the corner too long. Once in a while, you gotta werewolf out. You know what I mean?
This episode is special because Ryan says the worst thing in the entire show.
Ladies await, and I have not drugged them. Good luck.
Awesome.
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 A little less pelvis thrust.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Once the dating is underway, Anthony's actually not doing too bad for himself, at least from what the montage shows.
I am an actual superhero. I'm a real EMT, which makes it even better.
How are you a real
I'm a real EMT. That's what this is for. I actually saved someone's life and I got an award for it.
I took the CPR class.
How'd you like it?
I took it mainly because I wanted to use a defibrillator.
What? Now, because this is all presented in a very montage-y way, I don't know when he starts to do this, but things hit a snag when he enters his Gollum phase.
That's one of my favorites, but it's not really like up there. My favorite's actually Lord of the Rings.
I also love Lord of the Rings.
My favorite's Gollum. I love Gollum. Who's your favorite character?
I like Legolas.
Mine is Gollum. Gollum is way better. I'm sorry. Who's your favorite character? Please say Gollum. Please say Gollum.
He's very pushy with it, and you could tell it's a little odd for some of the women. Suddenly, he meets his perfect lady, a blondie who likes Lord of the Rings.
I got to hear Sean Astin, Sam from Lord of the Rings talk.
Oh my
He had
god.
a panel.
That is extra points. High five. I love Lord of the Rings. My favorite character is Gollum.
Gollum? Oh, I can see that. I can see that.
Dog, you do not want a girl saying you seem like a Gollum kind of guy.
It was nice meeting you. Yes. Oh my god. Yes. She said Precious from Gollum, my favorite character. Oh my god.
Tragically, Anthony does not get a perfect match and has to leave the hall heartbroken.
I was hoping I would get to hear my Precious one more time, even if it was just for that 3 minutes.
Despite this, he keeps a good attitude about it and says that it's just like fighting supervillains. He'll just keep trying until he succeeds. I think it's incredible that even in Anthony's moment of despair, Ryan Glitch can't help but ooze.
I hope he gives him a call. He's got a built-in second chance right there. And maybe he just needs more than 3 minutes. I know I do.
We actually get one of the best follow-ups in this episode, where it turns out that he got in touch with one of the women from the event, and they had a date where they just quoted South Park the whole time. A match made in heaven. And, like some other people on this show, he says that the whole experience helped him a lot with his self-esteem. Good for him. Kayla's episode is a bit of a doozy. She herself is not the most out there person, and in fact, she suffered more from others overreacting to her hobbies. See, Kayla's really into cosplay and has made the mistake of hiding this from previous partners because she thinks they could be put off by it. This predictably has backfired on her before, including this really awful story about a guy finding her cosplay closet, and breaking up with her on the spot. Hearing this, she sounds like someone who could get a lot out of sci-fi speed dating. You know, not having to feel judged for her hobbies and all. She's a home health aide, so she lives with an old couple and helps them with daily things. She's having a conversation with the wife, and the husband's just sitting there like the whole time. It's great. Once we're at the con, we get a very strange scene of Ryan doing his usual inquiring about the participants' information.
Are you over 18? Single? Guys or girls?
He just comes up from behind, grabs her by the shoulder, turns her around, and asks, "Are you over 18?" These clips raised multiple questions for me, as a matter of fact. Like, for instance, what happens if someone isn't straight? Do they just get turned away? I did some digging and it turns out that they do offer separate sessions for people who are homosexual, but I think there's a more important question that this also brings up. So, Ryan is going up to these people and making sure that they're over 18, but like, he never checks for ID or anything? Maybe that's covered before they even get in the line, but the fact that he's asking makes me wonder, because if you're not doing your due diligence, that seems pretty dangerous and like you're asking for a lawsuit against you or the convention organizers. Also, like, child abuse could happen, I guess.
The advice I would give geeks looking for love is to be outrageous. Go up to someone and like roar at them.
Do not go up to someone at a convention and scream in their face. They will not want to date you, trust me. So Kayla is going as the character of the Condes from Homestuck. I haven't read Homestuck, so I can't tell you what that means, but she looks like this.
Over 18?
Yes.
Single?
Yes.
Horny?
Yes.
Impressive.
It ends up being a problem, not because of the appearance itself, but because Kayla keeps describing it with this one word.
It's from Homestuck. It's a webcomic. He's like a sea Hitler.
So what exactly are you?
I am a sea Hitler troll.
Stop saying Hitler. Literally, just stop saying Hitler. Somehow, despite the whole, Third Rick thing, she meets someone who manages to be more off-putting than that.
Okay, Homestuck.
Yes, Homestuck.
Homestuck. Brony.
You're Brony?
We're colliding forces on the internet.
Yeah, I don't understand the whole...
And I don't quite understand the Homestuck. I'm a pony. I got a little tattoo on my butt.
After Nuremberg trials and Nuremberg tribulations, she finds someone who is also in Homestuck cosplay. There's a bit of a drama where the one person who matches with Kayla didn't write their number down, so they missed their chance to connect during the perfect match.
Just to see the one person you kind of get your hopes for, they don't put that number down. It's kind of like a throwback, like, what did I do wrong?
But all is well that ends well, because it turns out that the mystery person was the other Homestuck cosplayer, who had read Kayla's contact info from the speed date. And at the time of the follow-up, they were still talking every day. Alright, another Geek Love win. Now, if you've heard of Geek Love, it's probably because of episode 9. Joey's episode is easily the most infamous of all of them, and to be honest, it might be my favorite overall. Right off the bat, I like Joey. He seems really cool. He's really into general nerdy stuff, comics, games, genre film. He was overweight at one point and lost 80 pounds by playing EA Sports Active. Damn. And he still finds time to work out by running an exercise bike while he plays video games. Throughout his introduction, you get the sense that he's a really well-rounded guy. He comes across as confident, intelligent, self-aware, and charismatic. He has a lot of hobbies and lives a pretty healthy lifestyle.
I love women. Everything about women. Yeah, women are great. They're so sensitive and wonderful, and they have soft hair and soft skin. It's great. I love women.
There's only one problem. Joey's mom.
What kind of girl are you gonna find at Comic-Con?
The kind of girl who...
Weird girls go there.
On the other hand, my mom likes me where I am right now, living at home with her. So, as far as she's concerned, like, any woman in my life is a threat.
He's kind of a mama's boy. She's extremely protective of him, and the dad's just there the whole time, like, I love him.
What exactly do you think these girls are doing? Do you know that instead of doing drugs and drinking, they're reading comic books?
Who knows what they're doing between pages, okay?
Between pages? Like, let me turn a page and let me smoke a little bit of something.
No,
and then
all day they are playing and they are learning.
No.
And
You're
good
wrong.
wife. And all they play together. So nice.
He's cool. It's just there's some weird stuff
I just want to find a girl who will give me hugs and kisses and isn't my mother.
Watching Joey's speed dating is like Alfred Hitchcock's Bomb Under the Table. He is awesome at this. He goes in with no expectations. Whatever happens, happens. And he goes in and just kills it. They have so much footage of Joey just having conversations. It really highlights a common weakness that a lot of the subjects on this show, particularly the men, have, which is that if you get the conversation off of the 4 media properties they're invested in, they freeze up. They can't say anything. It's one of these things that the show never really comments on, kind of like the gatekeeping stuff that Casey Ann ran into in episode 2. It just sort of happens. I'm not saying anyone on the show has to make some grand statement about the problems with nerd culture. Just acknowledge it for how often it happens. When Joey runs into something he doesn't know, he employs a number of secret, advanced techniques, such as, I haven't seen that. Tell me about it. Oh, I always wanted to try thing. And the ultimate technique, ask them a question, listen to their response, then make a joke / ask a follow-up question based on what they said. I know, crazy. He has this conversation with a girl about Dungeons and Dragons. Look at how many times she blinks.
I've always wanted to play D&D. Are you ever the dungeon master?
Actually, no, because it's too hard.
Dude. It's in the back. Come on. It goes so well. When he gets his list of likes, he gets every single person. Every woman wrote his name down. He is the pick of the litter. There's 2 ladies he was really looking at. The first he met was this girl cosplaying Realm from Final Fantasy VI, which is sick. Later, he met a girl you could tell he was kind of into more, who was dressed as the Doctor from Dr. Hua. Joey is so popular that the moment the women are allowed to sit down with their matches, there's blood in the water, and the Realm cosplayer breaks the sound barrier to get to him. At this point, something awkward happens, and it has nothing to do with anything they do. You see, Joey's perfect match, Emily, was also being filmed by Geek Love. That's right. The unlikely event happened. 2 of their subjects met and went on a date together. There were supposed to be a clean 10 episodes in this series, but instead, the footage for Emily's episode was repurposed into a 2-minute bonus feature, and the full-length episode is dedicated to Joey. Now, why did he get a full episode? Well, remember the bomb under the table that we've known about the whole time? Joey's first date with Emily is to meet his mom. Okay, real quick, for anyone who doesn't know or doesn't have experience, don't go to someone's house on the first date, even like the first few dates, maybe. And that's not like a modesty thing, that's for safety. You don't want to end up scattered across several dumpsters around New York. Meet in a public place of some sort, I'm begging you. It's fine in this instance because everything's being filmed, but just word of advice. Joey is acutely aware of how bad this is going to be. And it's bad.
Beautiful. So you like to play video games?
I am a gamer, yes.
Oh, wow.
They walk in, and Joey's mom has prepared what looks like a spread of food for a 5th grader's birthday party, complete with Spider-Man China and Tang. Emily just grabs a bottle of water.
So, Emily, are you originally from New York? Or?
No, I'm not. I'm from Delaware. I'm just up here for college.
Oh, where do you go?
I go to Columbia.
Oh, great. Ivy League. Wow.
We're actually just gonna go and play some video games, yeah.
Okay.
Let's just go.
As soon as possible, they escape to Joey's room and play some Tetris. Kind of a baller move. Now, in spite of what just happened, once they're in the room playing games, they actually seem to have a good time together. Within only an hour, Emily leaves in what looks like a desperate attempt to be done with the date and study for her midterms. Yeah. The moment she's out the door, Joey is forced into a conversation about what his parents think of her, and his dad speaks English?
Very pretty girl.
Forget the old culture, whatever you think. This is United States of America, free country.
Okay. I don't know exactly what that means.
Coming from your father, it means it doesn't matter if she's a virgin.
The next day, Joey finds the Doctor Who cosplayer and sets up a second date. This time at the convention itself and not his parents' house. It goes smoother.
How many people could say that? One of my first dates, I went out with like Peter Parker.
Right?
How cool is that? You don't have the face mask?
No, I do.
You have to put it on.
You can't make me put this on.
Please.
No. Okay, only because you've got a great smile. I'm gonna try putting it on.
Because you're kind of cute like that.
Oh, thank you.
In the follow-up, we don't learn if anything further happened with either of the two girls, but he does say that his experience with Emily was his motivation to move out of his mom's house. God bless.
And so basically what this entire experience taught me is that it's time to move out. And so I'm basically in the process of moving out into my own apartment, so that's exciting, where I'll be able to, bring a girl over and play Tetris and not have to worry about my mom coming in and serving us Tang and snacks.
You may not believe it, but that's not the worst date Joey's ever been on. The official series guide on IGN's website has an interview where he talks about a time he was at a restaurant with a girl and she asked about his heritage. When he told her he was part Turkish, she started yelling at him that he should be ashamed of his heritage and apologize to the Armenian people. Also, she isn't even Armenian, she's fully Puerto Rican. At the time of the blog post, he hadn't yet finalized a place to live, but wanted to move to New York as opposed to New Jersey for the sake of the dating scene being bigger. Also, even worse than telling a girl you live with your parents is telling them that you live in New Jersey. Man, Joey's cool. This guide has a number of interviews with the other subjects of the series, and most of it isn't too terribly interesting, but if you scroll through Mary's, you'll find an interesting tidbit about how she's appeared on this show before? As it turns out, IGN's Geek Love was not the first iteration of the show. There was, in fact, an original on TLC. I'll be honest, I don't have a ton to say about this bit of the show. TLC only ordered 2 episodes, and I can only find the first one online, split up into chunks. In terms of production and editing, it's almost identical to the IGN version, just in worse quality because it was ripped from someone's TV. The formula isn't even rough, it's just more of the show. Taking place at Comic-Con 2011, the TLC episode focuses on 3 people. Gerald, who has trouble talking to people, Kelly, who is very proud of the fact that she likes Harry Potter, and Sal, who just needs someone who won't judge him for sleeping under a Justice League blanket. One way that the TLC series had to adapt for a lame stream audience is the inclusion of these little geek speak tags to explain to the audience what these freaks are talking about. Like how Sal's dog is named John Connor. You know, from that hyper-obscure film that no one's seen, Terminator. Thank God they told me about that. I'd be so lost.
What brings me to planet Earth? I was born here, actually.
I was an alien.
You're an alien?
Yeah. No, I'm an actual alien from Philippines, so yeah.
Oh!
Yeah.
Kelly ends up finding a guy to go on a date with without a lot of issue. Gerald runs into some more problems as his main strategy to impress women is his Wookiee call.
I'm a big Chewbacca fan.
You know, Gerald's one of the better Chewies I've heard.
He does meet a girl who can also do Wookiee, and there's a spark of hope in his eyes.
Big Chewbacca fan. Yes.
Sal goes on a date with Mary from the 2nd season, of all people, and they have a great time at Dave & Buster's. She gives him a kiss too. Like, the dude just needed to get out of high school, honestly.
I felt a kinship when she was growling back at me. You know, a Wookiee in the mist.
It looks like that girl is gonna sit down with Gerald, but then not the royalty-free Breathe Me by Sia!
If you don't have any perfect matches, I'm sorry.
God damn! It's actually pretty hard to track down what many of these people are doing. Ryan Glitch is probably the easiest. For one, yeah. So, sci-fi speed dating was actually going pretty strong into the pandemic, except for the part in 2018 where an employee of Ryan Glitch's claimed he groped her in a parking lot after a convention. Now, it's an allegation, and she didn't press charges, but like, it was an ass grab. Are you really going to sue someone for that in the first place? Let me tell you, I am shocked, floored, that Ryan Glitch, the ooze master of all people, who refers to women like these inhuman idols, might not have the most respect for them. I just can't believe it. If it makes you feel any better, he stepped down from running sci-fi speed dating following the accusation, and as far as I can tell, has been laying low ever since. The comment section of the final bonus episode has become this archive of people from the show commenting on their experiences, namely Emily herself. Now, if you haven't been on YouTube for half of your godforsaken life like I have, you might not remember how comment replies used to just be added under the original comment instead of being in a drop-down. Now, like at some point around 2013, 14-ish, YouTube overhauled the comment section, which means a lot of her replies are just left astray with no context, but you can piece together some information from what she writes. Apparently, during her date with Joey, she was feeling sick the entire time. So, imagine that you're tired because you spent all of yesterday at a giant convention. Then you have to go on a date where you have the most uncomfortable encounter with this guy's parents. You've only known him for one day, and you're trying not to throw up the whole time. Yeah, get the fuck out of there. Also, in the midst of all this, they record an exit interview with her where she says some generic, "Oh, maybe it could go somewhere," line about the date, and according to her, she could hear the entire conversation he had with his parents in the foyer.
Means it doesn't matter if she's a virgin.
Wow. What a terrible experience. She had some complaints about how having the cameras follow her around made it really hard to enjoy the date. I mean, you signed up for the show. I don't know what you were expecting. Jimmy is currently working as a freelance artist, and I hope that in the time since the show, he's learned to talk about things that aren't Jimmy Olsen. Anthony got married. Like, he did it. He found someone. He still maintains the Ansonator alter ego, but doesn't post online very often from what I can tell. You know, I made fun of him a lot, but looking at things side by side, he has a successful career in an important job, he's a black belt in a martial art, he has a family, and I have a high school diploma and an obscure YouTube channel. So, maybe the joke is on me. Geek Love is a really peculiar peek into a culture that was changing. See, in 2012, this little movie came out. You might have heard of it. I don't know, maybe not. It was called The Avengers. The early 2010s was the tipping point where geeky stuff became much more accepted and mainstream. Not necessarily because everyone suddenly became more empathetic, but because corporations realized they could make a lot of money with big dumb action movies. Capitalism time! The editors of the show frequently use B-roll of random interviews with people as transitions throughout the episodes. A lot of them are answering questions about why it's great to date nerds, or how meeting people with common interests was helpful. And they usually say something like, nerd pride, or geeks rule, and I found myself cringing horribly at this.
Nerd power!
I mean, what? You like comic books and Lord of the Rings and Star Wars? Like, who cares? Why is this such a big part of your identity? And then I thought about it for a second, and I realized that with the ages of most of these people, they probably have very different experiences from me being into this stuff. Even when I was in elementary school, nobody wanted to be my friend, and everyone made fun of me because I liked retro games and things no one had heard of, and I honestly was probably way too into Ancient Aliens. That one was on me. I mean, in like 2011, when I was in the 3rd grade, no one knew what Zelda was. Like, it was that crazy, the difference between me and other kids. And that changed as I got older, but a lot of the people you see here probably grew up with that their whole lives. Things like gatekeeping aren't cool, but I think psychologically, it comes from an inherent distrust of people. You want them to prove that this isn't an elaborate ruse to mock you. Or you're just an asshole who wants to feel better about yourself. When you're persecuted for something that you're into, it's hard to be casually into that thing. You're already outing yourself from a lot of social groups, so you might as well go all in. And it's a natural defense mechanism that if you're invested in something and people persecute you for it, to develop an intense pride around that thing, to make it a big part of your identity, your personality. What I'm saying is that liking Star Trek is a lot like being gay. Not all of these tendencies make for healthy relationships with media or even other people, but there are reasons for them that this show brushes with, despite never really addressing. Like, for as much as Ryan talks about how being an ultra fan makes it easier to connect with other geeks, there's plenty of evidence in the show that a lot of these people are only into a few things. Their interests are actually pretty narrow, and they don't care to go outside of their comfort zone. Now, again, the show doesn't have to critique these things. It's supposed to be a fun, frivolous dating show, and to be honest, it's pretty good at that. Unlike a lot of reality television, it doesn't try to put people into boxes to make it easier for the audience to root for or against them. If Geek Love has any kind of message to it, it's that people's benign interests deserve respect, and they deserve love as well. And I think that for our very special, very belated Valentine's Day episode of The Cellar, I can get behind that. I have a podcast and a Patreon. Bye-bye.
Here comes a daredevil. Game over.